Hello and welcome to my review of Godzilla King of the Monsters. I'll be referring to the movie as KTUM from now on because it's easier. I've already reviewed Godzilla 2014 as well as Kong Skull Island, so be sure to check those out if you're interested. I don't have a set structure or set script for this review. I'm just going to be talking about what I think are the most notable parts of this movie, as well as what will affect your experience with it. Anyways, let's get into it. Let's get the most obvious flaw out of the way. The humans and how they always seem to interrupt the action of the movie. In fact, they feel like they only exist to interrupt the monster action that's going on. You know, when you think about this, the Boston scene immediately comes to mind. We're watching Godzilla and Ghidorah going at it, and then boom, the Argo comes in and just blocks our view. It's frustrating. Obviously, you can't have a movie just about the monsters fighting and going at it, but the human characters are just extremely uninteresting. The human villain of the story, Emma Russell, she tries to be a Thanos, but she doesn't achieve that complexity or believability Thanos has. She just feels unauthentic. All of her evil is explained away in a single exposition dump, and it really just takes the audience out of the experience. Dr. Graham, who was just kind of pushed aside in Godzilla 2014, also does very little in this movie. Aside from being very sudden, her death seems somewhat irrelevant. It doesn't push the story forward, or it doesn't make Ghidorah seem like more of a villain. We're already against Ghidorah, so her death doesn't really do anything. The only reason I could think of it is shock factor, which is meh. I would have hoped they did more with her after her minimal role in Godzilla 2014. As for the other characters, they're all there. They seem somewhat manufactured, but it's really mediocre. That's all I can say about them, really. Now, Dr. Serizawa yet again proves to be the best human character in this movie. He has a lot of great scenes. Obviously, his key character moment is his sacrifice. Uh, this scene is probably the best emotional scene in this movie, as well as the entire MonsterVerse so far. Dr. Serizawa's death actually moves the plot forward, and it's a beautiful scene. It's touching. I think "Goodbye, old friend" was a perfect line, and it's the perfect way for Dr. Serizawa to go out.
さらば友よ
Well, with all the humans out of the way, let's talk about the monsters. Obviously, the kaiju are the real main characters of this movie. Let's discuss Samantha first. One thing I noticed was that she doesn't kill in this movie. She's shown as the peaceful Titan. Another thing was I really liked how she was given a stinger and some actual way to defend herself because, in the previous movies, she would just be some bug in the fly, right? But in this movie, she's got a stinger, at least a way to defend herself, which makes sense. These are animals who would have to fight each other to survive. Now let's talk about Rodan. He doesn't really have that big of an impact in the story, He doesn't do much, but his scenes are really good. His first scene where he's birthed from the volcano is really good. Visuals are great. It's a super cool scene, and what I really enjoyed was that, he causes so much destruction just by flying over the town. It really sells the power these monsters have. He was able to destroy an entire town, and he didn't even try it. So I think his a great first scene makes up for the fact that he doesn't have anything to do during the rest of the movie. Now for the big bad himself, King Ghidorah. I really liked his design in this movie. His he's menacing. He really looks like he's the rival to Godzilla. All of his scenes are really great, especially, he has a lot of cool shots where he's just standing with his wings outstretched. It really shows his size and scale. It shows that he has power, and his power is enough to compete with that of Godzilla's. A little side note here, I also liked how, his two of his heads picked on the left one. I thought it was a little funny detail. Finally, let's talk about the Big G himself. His design of this movie was changed from 2014. His back spines have a more rounded look to him, which is more reminiscent of the older Godzilla films. I thought his 2014 look was unique, but this look also looks great, so it's fine with me. As for Godzilla himself, I really liked how he has a lot of throwbacks to his old movie. Burning Godzilla is obviously a reference to Heisei Godzilla's final form. He also uses a lot of his classic roars throughout the movie. I think the 2014 roar is really, really cool, but references to the original don't hurt. In fact, I think this is one of the main aspects of this movie. The enjoyment of this movie really depends on if you're a long-time Godzilla fan or not. This movie makes a lot of callbacks and references to the older Toho films, and if you don't get those, I would understand how your enjoyment of this film is lesser. You have Ghidorah being called Monster Zero and being an alien. You have the twin scientists that are related to Mothra. You also have the oxygen destroyer being used to almost kill Godzilla. The themes for all these monsters also use a lot of their original scores, and it sounds really amazing. If you understand and you knew the history behind these themes, I feel like you'd appreciate the music a lot more. But it's already super good, so not too much to talk about there. But my point is, if you're familiar with Godzilla and his history, this movie becomes a whole lot better for you. When I first saw this movie in theaters, I really liked it. I would have given it a 9 out of 10 then, but now that I've rewatched it and I've been more critical and I've gotten rid of most of my biases, this movie doesn't really hold up that well under scrutiny. We have the monsters of the movie who are handled extremely well, always are interrupted by the human characters who aren't that interesting. That's probably the best way to sum up this movie. I want to make this clear, I don't hate the movie. It is very entertaining and enjoyable, especially during the monster fights and how it calls back to the original films. But it just never seems to keep your interest for long enough. And when interesting stuff does happen, it's always interrupted by the human characters swooping in to take over the story. Well, that's really what I have to say about Godzilla King of the Monsters. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but I also won't be making that Godzilla statue I said I would in Minecraft. I just didn't feel like doing it, and I don't have enough motivation to complete it, so I apologize for that. I'll be making my King Kong vs. Godzilla review very soon. I will try to get that out before Godzilla vs. Kong comes out, but I won't make any promises. I'll also be doing a initial thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong the Friday after it comes out. After that, I'll need some time, but I will be making a full review as well. Well, this video is coming to an end. I think this sort of no structure format did quite well. I like the free flow aspect of it. It also feels more authentic. I can, talk how I would normally talk instead of how I would write. Well, thank you for sticking around, and with all that said, I bid you adieu and thank you for watching.